The 38-year-old little fairy had rejected her boyfriend's proposal 8 times over 8 years. Who could have known, just a few days later, she received a wedding invitation from him, and she immediately broke down in tears.
你要结婚了，新郎不是我，在这无人的角落。
You're getting married, but the bride isn't me. Even if I cry a river, no one will pity me. Looking at the wedding invitation that was sent yesterday, the little fairy felt heartbroken. The reason she rejected his 8 proposals wasn't because she didn't love him, but because she wanted him to become more successful. Her boyfriend, a university teacher, had a low income, which wasn't enough to provide the luxurious life she desired. All of this was meant to push him to improve. She promised herself that once he earned $1 million a year, and was worthy of her, she would accept his proposal. But to her surprise, her boyfriend did something unforgivable behind her back.
阿志啊，我所有的辛苦付出、劳累、思念，全部像肥皂泡，一个一个的破灭，而你现在却双手双飞，牵着别的女人的手。
Even though she was devastated, the little fairy still placed all the blame on her ex-boyfriend. Holding the wedding invitation he sent, she went to the lakeside. Just as the mediator thought she might do something foolish, she ended up doing something foolish indeed. Unexpectedly, she went to the lakeside just to recite a poem.
我的心声啊，我自己的东西。
Heaven and earth, why is it that only your youth matters? What about the 8 years of youth your ex-boyfriend lost? Who will he go to for justice? Historically, Liu Bei only needed 3 visits to invite Zhuge Liang, and Cao Cao only needed 3 chances to gather top strategists. Even Meng Huo needed to be captured 7 times by Zhuge Liang. Seeing the little fairy crying so heart-wrenchingly, the mediator realized it was time for them to step in. As the saying goes, if you're right, find the police; if you're wrong, find the press. In order to find the cruel ex-boyfriend, the mediator and the little fairy, along with her friend, went to his house. But to their surprise, they were met with a cold shoulder. It turned out that after sending the wedding invitation, the ex-boyfriend, along with his entire family, had moved away overnight. Staring at the now empty house, the little fairy was filled with inspiration for more poetry.
07年爱我，08年也爱我，09年也爱我，10年你也爱我，11年你也爱我。你说要跟我结婚，你说要娶我，你说要牵着我的手，一辈子走下去的，阿紫啊。
The past, full of love and care, seemed to still be vivid in her memory. But now, her ex-boyfriend had disappeared without a trace. Thinking back to 2007, when the beautiful and fair little fairy first tried online dating, countless young talents wanted to pamper her. But she set her eyes on a handsome young man full of artistic charm. She took the initiative, and after becoming a couple, they promised to be together forever, never leaving each other. He promised he would marry no one but her. Especially since they were both teachers, it felt like they were perfectly matched. The little fairy even made him promise that one day, they would get married in a foreign church.
他说要带我去教堂举行我们的婚礼，教堂举行我们的婚礼，然后让外国的朋友为我们祝福，然后在罗马广场牵着我的手。 让一群鸽子围着我们翩翩起舞。
Those beautiful memories were now nothing but bubbles. Dreams were beautiful, but reality was harsh. Just a few months ago, her boyfriend had again proposed with expensive flowers. As always, the little fairy rejected him. At this point, her boyfriend still didn't earn enough to provide the life she wanted. But it was okay, she could continue waiting for him. However, as time passed, the little fairy began to sense something was wrong. Over the next few months, her boyfriend stopped contacting her. She finally realized that after rejecting his 8 proposals, he had chosen to betray her without mercy. Seeing this, the mediator, also a woman, was furious and vowed to get an explanation for the little fairy. So, the 2 women drove to the school where the ex-boyfriend worked. But there, they learned that the ex-boyfriend had taken a leave of absence to prepare for his wedding. At the school, his colleagues handed over the wedding invitation. The little fairy broke down in tears and voiced her heartache.
他马上结婚，而新娘不是我。
Seeing the little fairy crying so desperately at the school, those who didn't know the situation began to misunderstand. They quickly called the ex-boyfriend. After a round of angry exchanges, an hour later, the ex-boyfriend was summoned by his unsuspecting superior. The mediator, who was also a woman, immediately asked an extraordinary question. How could it be that, just the day before the wedding, you're still asking him to choose? Did you think this was an emperor selecting a concubine? However, what the mediator didn't know was that, before meeting the little fairy, her ex-boyfriend had already been in a sincere relationship with his first love. But the little fairy had interfered, breaking up that love. Now, after 8 years, she still refused his proposal. Hearing this, the mediator was speechless. It turned out neither of them were innocent. But as a professional mediator, she chose to continue helping. At that moment, the little fairy suddenly declared that she was 2 months pregnant. Upon hearing this, the ex-boyfriend immediately denied it, shouting that they hadn't even seen each other in months.
是这么回事啊，是他自己去深圳去看了一下他，在他家里停留不到半个小时，当时他妹妹在场，看了一下他，然后就走。
你在放屁！你在放屁！你在污蔑我！
Everyone thought the little fairy would be calm, given her profession as a teacher, but she turned out to be a force to be reckoned with. In a fit of anger, she hit her ex-boyfriend before leaving with the mediator. But she wasn't someone to let go so easily. She planned to cause a scene at the wedding the next day. With this crazy idea in mind, the mediator felt the urge to join in, but for the sake of her career, she still advised the little fairy to calm down. The 2 of them sped down the road, against traffic, as the mediator tried in vain to convince her to turn back. The ex-boyfriend's relatives quickly restrained the little fairy, and in the blind spot of the cameras, slapped her twice. Under the cover of the crowd, the ex-boyfriend drove away with his new wife. Completely broken, the little fairy went back to the lakeside to recite poetry once again.
你承诺的，要跟我一生一世走下去啊！你说要带我去教堂结婚的，你给我的那些美丽的梦，为什么突然之间全部都是谎言啊？
In life, how many 8 years do we have to wait? If you didn't want to marry, why not have let go of each other sooner? Now, it's too late to reverse things. In the end, thanks to the mediator's efforts, the ex-boyfriend was called in for a second round of mediation the following day. The story's conclusion: the ex-boyfriend had to apologize and later provide some financial compensation. But after the mediator left, the ex-boyfriend only apologized and then blocked the little fairy on all platforms. As for the promised financial compensation, that was just a dream. Completely devastated, the little fairy once again went to the lakeside to recite poetry. I once had a sincere love right in front of me, but I didn't cherish it, and now I regret it deeply after losing it. Had I known he would only propose 8 times, I should have accepted the 7th proposal. Could some kind of celestial being come to my rescue?
Perhaps everyone sees their own reflection in this story. We pursue love, but do we truly understand what we want? This girl rejected her boyfriend's marriage proposal 8 times, not because she didn't love him, but because she hoped he could meet her ideal standards and give her the life she desired. However, reality slapped her hard in the face. Her boyfriend's wedding invitation marked the loss and failure she experienced in this relationship. This is not just a story about love. It's a reflection on our modern views of marriage. Do we expect marriage to be based on love? Or do we place more emphasis on materialism and responsibility? How many people in marriage have missed each other because they refuse to compromise? Maybe this story reminds us that some things, once missed, can never be reclaimed. But there's also a question worth pondering. Does true love mean mutual support, or is it about clinging to one's own perfect ideal? Do we often let too many conditions bind us in love and forget our initial intentions? So, what do you think? Is this girl's persistence worth it? Or is her loss actually the failure of an overly idealized view of love in the face of reality? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us, and we'll continue to bring you better content. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.